Hello and welcome. In this video I'm going to show you how I convert a pattern for a cardigan knitted flat, so working it back and forward, to in the round. I'm going to use this pattern from Drops. It's a free pattern that you can find on their website, and the name is Flamingo Parade Jacket. I don't know about your flat color work, but mine, as you can see, is far away from perfect. Unfortunately, working color work back and forward, so you work the knit stitches and the purl stitches too with 2 or 3 colors, it does have some challenges as the yarn is coming from different directions, and so it's pulling the stitches, as you can see in many places. So my color work in the round, it's a completely different thing. It's very clean without much effort. I'm sure that this is the same for many people. And also it's a bit easier because you can knit only on the front side, so working only knit stitches instead of doing knit and purls too. This is the inside of the work. Also, it will be much faster to just knit than do knits and purls while doing color work at the same time. So I'm going to convert this cardigan from working it flat, so front and back, front and back, to working it in the round. So I will only be knitting, no purls, and my work will look much better. And we will be doing this by steeking. Steeking means that we will cut the cardigan that we knitted in the round, so we will be knitting this as a tube, as a closed tube. We will then cut right in the middle here to open it and wear it as a cardigan. And just before we cut it, we will knit the 2 bands for the buttons and 1 for the buttonholes. Please don't be scared of the word steeking or steeking itself. Fear is the main thing that people feel when you talk about steeking. And I can understand when we don't know the outcome of something, then it can be scary, I agree. But when something has been tried and tested and done hundreds of thousands of times, if not millions, I don't know, there is absolutely nothing to be scared of. Actually, I always look forward to get at the end and cutting my cardigan. I really like to do it, because I know that nothing is going to happen, the stitches will stay there, nothing is going to unravel, especially because we will reinforce the sides with a crochet hook, so there really is nothing to be afraid of. So we can have a look at the pattern now. It will start with the size, the yarn that they are using for the cardigan, the amount of yarn, the knitting tension, the needles that you need. Here there are the instructions to work the short rows, which are these extra rows. We work a wedge here, back and forward to grow just the middle part. People are scared of short rows too, but you start knitting as normal, you get to the middle of your work and you work a total of stitches up to here. And then you turn your work and you purl from here, you go over the middle and work down to here. And then you turn from here, do another round longer, and then again turn, so that we can add this piece of fabric here. As you can see, this is much shorter than this part here, the middle is longer, so that we will raise the back a little bit, and this is what will look like instead of looking something like that with the back and the front of the same length. When the sweaters are like this with no raise at the back, when you wear them, The front will raise up and choke you, stay very high at your neck, and the back will go down. When you add a few rows at the back raises up a little bit, and those uncomfortable two things will not happen. It will be like this. See, you can skip the short rows if you don't want to do them, but again, if you can knit and purl, it's just a matter of turning, making some stitches, turning, making other stitches and turning. The pattern says to start the rib, do 1 row of increases and start your short rows. Now, I didn't want the opening to be so large, so I added a few rows to make it a bit higher. If you obviously like it so open here, you follow the pattern exactly as it will tell you to do. I added a few rows before starting my short rows. I've been working back and forward up to now, and this is how you work the short rows too, back and forward. Now that I've done the rib and the short rows, I'm ready to close and start to work only on the round. I will give you tips for increasing, other tips for the bands, for decreasing, for the buttonholes, and for casting off. And then the actual pattern starts here. And it says that the neck and yoke are worked back and forward with circular needles from mid, front and top down. And then the yoke is divided for the sleeves and the body is then continued back and forward until you finish. For the part of the neck, we are going to work in the exact same way as they do in the pattern, because we don't close yet the round. So instead of starting my round and closing everything from the very first round here and knitting everything closed, I'm going to knit this part open. I'm going to do the short rows while it's open, and then I will close the round. And I will start to knit only around and around on the front side. So the neck part is going to be worked in the exact same way. Now, the only difference, again, is that in their total count of stitches, so in all the total count of stitches, they include these 5 band stitches on one side and these other 5 band stitches on the other side, which they work, as you can see, as purl stitches, 5 and 5, which we will not have. We will work the bands at the very end, just before we cut the cardigan. Actually, the tube that it will become a cardigan once opened. Again, the only difference is these 10 stitches for the bands that we will not have. Instead, we will have 5 stick stitches. These are 5 stitches. So this is our work on the needle, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Yet you have all the other stitches. Let's say these are stitches. And while they have here 10 stitches, 5 for one button band and 5 for the other band, we will have only 5, a total of 5. And these 5 stitches that we do extra are just so that we can reinforce this column, we will reinforce the other column, and we will cut right in the middle here. So our 5 stitches are called the stick stitches that we need in order to have a little bit more fabric so that we can carry it. Trust me, nothing scary about it. So, and it says cast on for my size 128 stitches, including 5 band stitches on each side towards mid front. We don't do any band stitches. So instead of 128, we will always have, at any total count of stitches, we will always have 10 stitches less, because they account for the 10 band stitches. For the neck, we will work in the same way, back and forward. We don't close the round yet. We will close the round when we finish the neck, just before starting the yoke. So, neck, worked in the same way, back and forward. Instead of 128, we will have 128 minus 10, which are 5 band stitches on each side that we don't have. So we will cast on 118. If you are starting with 136, 136 minus 10, 126. So you remove these 10 stitches. And it says cast on 118 with a circular needle 3 millimeters and a certain color. Purl 1 row, which we do. Change the color and work the next row as follows from the right side. And it tells you 5 band stitches in garter stitch, which we don't work. And we start immediately by working the rib. So you do knit 2 purl 2, work all your round until there are 7 stitches left on the row. Remember, they always account for those 5 and 5 band stitches. So we will only have 2. 7 minus the 5 band stitches that we don't have. So we will only have 2 stitches left on the row. In fact, it says knit 2 and we finish here, because we don't do finish with 5 band stitches. We don't do them. Continue until the rib is 3 centimeters. Remember buttonholes on right band, which we don't care because we will do the button bands at the end. Change to size 4 millimeters needle. Knit 1 row from the right side where you increase 26 stitches. They have a calculator in the website, in the Drops website, where you enter the total amount of stitches. You tell them how many stitches you need to increase, and they will tell you how many rows there have to be between each increase. So you do this row of increases, and you end up with 154. Remember, we will always have 10 stitches less. So 154 minus 10, we will have 144 stitches. And then it says, purl 1 row, obviously from the wrong side. The bands are worked in garter stitch, which we don't care, we don't do bands at this moment. And now you can work an elevation in back of neck, which are the short rows, which they tell you here how to work them. You can obviously choose your preferred method. You can do wrap and turn, or German short rows, or Japanese short rows. You can choose the method you like most. Okay, so you do the German short rows in the back of the neck, and then you start with the yoke. At this point, you work your short rows, and we close the round. We close the round at this point. Now, starting from the yoke, they continue here to work back and forward, but we will work in the round. I'm going to do a separate video to show you actually how to add the stick stitches and how to continue then to stick the cardigan. But in this video, I'm only going to show you what happens with the pattern, so that you can have a slight idea of how it works to apply this same method to other patterns. So let's have a look here, the yoke. So as I said here, I worked my short rows. I would now close the round and start to work in the round. So this part will be open and the rest will be all closed, with an additional 5 stitches that I will add just after joining. I will add 5 stitches, which will be my 5 stick stitches that I can then cut. So for the yoke, we have done this part, the very start, and the back part of the short rows. Now we can start with the pattern. So it tells you to read the knitting tips that they give you at the start. And then it says, the first row is worked as follows from the right side. 5 band stitches, which we don't do, and then you work the pattern A1A until there are 6 stitches left on row. Remember, they always account for the 5 stitches on one side, 5 on the other, for the bands 5 and 5. So when we finish or when we start, we don't have these 5 stitches. Okay, so work this row of A1A pattern until there are 6 stitches left on row. So the A1A pattern is this one here, this one here. This would be the first row that they are talking about. And in this row, it's all one color and there are no changes. And it says to repeat these 11 stitches, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 11 stitches until there are 6 stitches. Remember, they always account for the band stitches, so we will only have 1 stitch left on row. With this 1 stitch left, you work the pattern A1B. So this is the pattern A1B, which starts as well with the same color stitch as your main pattern, and then it changes. So the first stitch is just 1 knit stitch of the same color. And this is what you do. And finish with 5 band stitches. No, we don't have any 5 band stitches. Okay, then it says, continue this pattern at the same time on each row marked with an arrow in A1A. So whenever you see an arrow, so this row, this round, this round, this round, this round, you do an increase round. And it will tell you exactly how to do it. Arrow 1, which is this one, arrow 1, so this round, you increase of 44 stitches evenly spaced, and you will have a total of 198. Remember, 198 minus 10, we will have 188, plus our 5 stick stitches. Okay, and it tells you arrow 1 how many stitches to increase, and it will tell you how many times to repeat the pattern A1A. All of these rounds are gonna be the same thing. The only difference is the total of stitches. We don't account for the 10 band stitches, but we will only have, instead of these 10 stitches, we will only have our 5 stick stitches that are not really part of the pattern, are there only so that we can cut the middle of the tube to make the cardigan. So it changes absolutely nothing here other than the number of stitches. The pattern is worked into the exact same way. We are going to have the same pattern, same everything, same amount of stitches for the sleeves, same everything. The only difference is when you start the round and when you finish the round, because again we work in rounds, not flat. We don't add these band stitches. This is the only difference. Then the pattern is worked in the exact same way with the same stitches in the same position and everything else. But while these purl stitches are part of the pattern, because these stitches are done to obtain the bands, we don't have these extra stitches. So you will continue to work in the round, always knitting. You will have no purl stitches to make while they work once on the front. They work all the front, then they turn and work all the purl stitches while also doing the color work. We will only and always face the front side, always and only knitting, no purling. This is the only thing that you have to be aware of, that if in your pattern that should be knit one row, purl the other row, that purl row will transform into knit one row and then you knit the other row too, because we always face the front side. So it's not too complicated actually to convert a pattern for a flat cardigan to in the round. And it says to continue until you finish the yoke, then it will tell you to place the total of stitches on hold for the sleeve. You cast on the same amount of stitches that it will tell you here. Never change the amount of stitches you need for the sleeve. The only thing that changes is the total of stitches at the end of each round. So after you have done all the yoke and you divide the sleeves, you can start then with the lace pattern, which is just you knit, and then with yarn overs you will create these cute holes. And again, the pattern is the same. The only difference is the total of stitches. Here we will have 222, not 232. 222 plus our 5 stick stitches. So work stocking stitch back and forth. We only work stocking and stitch from the front because we are working in the round, with no band stitches on each side, and then decrease at the same time. For my size is 0 times. Again, the total of stitches is always 10 stitches less. Then after you have worked a total amount of stitches, after the fence, start the lace pattern. The first row is worked there. So always no band stitches. 5 band stitches in garter stitch. Then the same pattern until we will have 1 stitch left on row. Do 22 repeats of 10 stitches. These are all the repeats for the yoke with the design. So all of this part. And then this is the part with the holes. As you can see, there is the symbol for the yarn over and the knit two together. At the end of the body here, it will tell you to work the rib stitches here for the band at the end. And again, so change to circular needles 3 millimeters and work the next row as follows from the right side. We will always be on the right side. So the five band stitches that we don't work, and you immediately start with knit 2 per 2, which is the rib. And then work until there are, remember, 7 stitches left on row. We don't work any band stitches, so we will only have 2 stitches left, plus our stick stitches. So we will only have 2 to work. And in fact, it says knit 2 and finish with 5 band stitches, we don't do. Continue the rib for 4 centimeters and then cast off with garter stitch over garter stitch. You will have to cast off as well, either in the same way or as you like. And then it will tell you how to work the sleeve. Put the stitches on all the back on your needles. Work the sleeve with the same amount of stitches. We don't have here 10 stitches less. The 10 stitches less regard only the opening and the front of the cardigan, because we don't do these bottom band stitches. But the sleeve, the yoke, the body, all the same stitches worked in the same place where they tell you to work. And you will be done here. You cast off and we will be ready then to stick the cardigan. And I'm going to show you how to start and work the stick stitches in another video. So I hope you found this information a bit useful. Thank you for watching as always, and bye.